I want to say welcome and good afternoon to everyone that's on. We're having an issue with the Congressman here. We're trying to make sure that he's in, so give us just a second and we're going to get started.
You see him? You don't see him.
No. I see his name here.
Okay, I'm on now.
There we go. All right. How are you today, sir?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good. See if you can turn your camera on. We don't see you. We hear you, but we don't see you.
Yeah, I've got my camera on. You don't see me?
No. Let me see. Again, to all of the attendees, as soon as we get Congressman in, someone is in the chat saying they had to leave and come back to get connected. I'm not sure.
Zeron, why don't we get started? You know, in respect for the attendees' time, and if the congressman's able to resolve the technical difficulties, we'll let him come in right at that point. Okay.
All right, let me see here. Okay. Well, let's do this. If you gentlemen don't mind, we can go around the table and introduce yourselves as we try to resolve this issue. I guess we can start with you, Mr. Potowski.
Sure, thank you very much.
Sure.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. While the technical difficulties are being resolved, I'm Roman Potowski. I'm the chair of the SCORE North Metro Atlanta chapter. We will tell you a little more about us today, who we are, what we do, and how we're trying to help the local community with services that we provide. And we'll go through that for you to give you an idea of those who are starting out, those who have been in business for a little while and then are striving to grow. And then obviously there are other resources available to you. And with that, I'll turn you over to my colleague, Steve Newton from SBDC.
Thank you, Roman. My name is Steve Newton. I work for the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center here in DeKalb County. We cover DeKalb and Rockdale. We provide no-cost consulting services to small business owner and low-cost educational services. We'll talk more about that during the program. Jeff?
Hey, good morning, and thanks for having us. I'm with the U.S. Small Business Administration, so I work closely with SCORE, obviously, and SBDC, and we're happy to be a part, and I see the congressman's joined.
Okay.
Yes, I am on now. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties, but I'm on. I hope you all can hear and see me. I want
Congressman, you're free. You're free. It keeps getting kicked out. There he is again.
Okay, I want to thank all of the special guests for being here. I want to welcome the entrepreneurs and small business owners who are listening in. Welcome to this program. This is a great time to start a small business, and you have experts on this Zoom conference who can help you with resources and advice. And so I want to
All right, guys, he's having some major challenges here today.
Yeah, and with that, let's get on with the program. And I'm sorry for these technical difficulties.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to get you started here. All right.
Well, hello again, then. Roman Potowski here with SCORE, from SCORE North Metro Atlanta. I thought it would start out with a picture of our real volunteers, not some promotional picture, but this gives you an idea of the scope of the number of people we have, the diversity that we have, both in female and males, the number of volunteers that have an incredible, amount of skill sets. We have over 130 different skills and industry experiences available to you to help you make a difference. And as the congressman said, this area is rife with entrepreneurial spirit. There is so much interest here, and I'll give you a little flavor for that as we go through. Next slide, please. So SCORE has over 10,000 volunteers nationally. Although we try to serve locally, we have access to all of these volunteers and to their diverse set of skills and experiences, so that if you've got a question that we can't answer locally, we certainly reach out to others inside of the organization that can help. There are over 250 chapters nationwide. We happen to be in this area the 4th largest chapter in the United States. And that's a testament to the amount of entrepreneurial interest that is in this area. We are a nonprofit organization, and we are a resource partner to the Small Business Administration. Next slide. So we were selected as the 2021 Georgia Chapter of the Year. That follows on the fact that we were the 2020 Georgia Chapter of the Year also. We mentored over 3,500 clients in 6,300 sessions last year. We helped to start 368 new businesses, and we helped generate about 1,200 new jobs in the process. We primarily serve a 21 county area northeast and west of the I-285 perimeter, and certainly the Congressman's district is well represented in here. The areas of DeKalb, the southwestern Gwinnett area, Newtown, and Rockdale. So we have presence, and we have a lot of interest from the small business people in the Congressman's district. Next slide. I mentioned that we have over 100 volunteers. 35% are minorities, 30% are women, 16% are veterans. So we have 7 Spanish-speaking mentors. We also have other languages such as Hindi, Chinese, Portuguese, and so on. We have 58% of our volunteers still work full or part-time. The balance are retired. We like that mix because it says we have volunteers who are very familiar with today's business tools. And certainly we've got volunteers who over the span of their career experienced almost all the business issues that you see as you try to start your own business. Next slide. They have both business startup experience with small businesses, and they have corporate careers. The disciplines that they represent are accounting, finance, sales, marketing, operations, quality control, human resources, export, import sales, domestic and international experiences. And they represent individuals who've worked both at single and multi-location enterprises. And I'd like to point out that we not only help entrepreneurs who want to start for-profit businesses, but also those who've got nonprofit organizations in their vision as to how they can help the local community. So we do help nonprofit organizations. What do? We offer free one-on-one video, email, or telephone mentoring, so virtual. We have live online workshops that are available at no cost or for a nominal fee, and a library of free articles, blogs, checklists, recorded webinars, templates, business plan outlines, and much more. Next slide. So what is mentoring? Some people don't, are not familiar with that term necessarily. In our case, it's a one-on-one session to develop a path forward to help you with your business. What are the most frequent questions we get? I need help with creating a business plan. And why do you need a business plan? Because you need a way to look at where you're going. Think of it as a roadmap. Think of it as the plan that gets you from here to there. Think of it as your checklist on where you are going to go, and how you're going to get there. Second question is financing. I would like financing. I have an idea for a new business. I need grants. I need funding. And we'll talk a little more about that. And then how do I attract more customers? I need to generate more revenues. People are not coming to my website. Can you help me with that? So you can select your own mentor or let us pair you with a mentor. And this is, since this will be a PowerPoint that's provided to you at the end, there's the website to get to finding a mentor. Next slide. Go. So workshops, the basic topics we cover are you ready to start a business? And this is really pretty important as you're thinking about it. So in this workshop, we do things like a self-assessment. Are you ready to start a business? Are you a self-starter? Are you willing to put in the long hours that it takes? Are you, have you thought about your financing needs? Are you self-disciplined? Will you do what you say you're going to do? Do you manage your finances well? These are all areas that are, just typical questions, and we help go through that with you. We go through the fact that, you need to identify necessary resources. You need to know how to start up a business in terms of licensing. What kind of business organization structure do you want? Is it going to be a sole proprietorship? Is it a partnership? Is it a C Corp, S Corp? Is it a LLC? So these are the types of things that get addressed in these businesses. And then what about financial resources there? So we'll go through, what do you owe? What do you own? That's your starting point, your own self-worth. It's kind of like figuring out, where do I come up with, mortgage money? And then go through to the next most popular financial resource. It's the F&F Bank, as it's called, the friends and family bank that you borrow from to get your business started. Another, it leads then into marketing, financial, business plans. So marketing, can you win? Have you really identified who your competition is? Can you beat them? Can you generate, business for yourself? The finance begins to tell you, is it worth it? Can you make enough money, that as you invest into this business idea of yours, time and energy, is it worth it, to go through all that work? And then a business plan, which puts it all together. So that's important for you to be considering. So that's the type of thing that, as you're developing your business, or even as you've got the business, how do I take it to the next level? A lot of people in this area, because we do have a number of federal government contracts. So we have a workshop. In fact, it's coming up on May 4th. It's a free workshop. How do you prepare, competitive bids and proposals for federal government contracts? As I mentioned, we do help with nonprofits. How do you start a nonprofit? How do you finance a nonprofit? And then specialized workshops, growing the business using the popular online sites such as Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, and others. Pricing, how do you come up with what your price is going to be? How do I do this so I can grow profitably? Advertising, branding in today's environment. The whole idea of e-commerce. Am I ready for this digital world? Next slide. We've got a library of free resources. And I think of this as the do-it-yourself site. Do you prefer to research on your own? Do you want to look at these things and familiarize yourself before you would go to a mentoring session? Here's the site to do that with. Are you looking for a specific category of entrepreneurs? Score for all, and we mean that. We've got sites that are specialized, or websites that are specialized for Black entrepreneurs, for Hispanic, for women entrepreneurs. And do you know that today, 51% of small businesses are being started by women? Message to you guys, you better catch up, start doing your homework. And then you have veteran entrepreneurs. That's another whole category that we support. And then do you prefer a language other than English as your starting point? So on our website, up at the top of the page, there's a little button. It's should be, bigger and bolder, but it's called Translate. Hit that button, and using Google features, it will translate in over 80 languages. So that if you're more comfortable in a language other than English to start, be our guest, do that. Now, not everything gets translated because some of it is hard coded, but you'll find out that a lot of the basic information that gets you started is available in all these different languages. Next slide. We do look forward to working with you. If you're looking for help, find a mentor at score.org. If you've got friends, or relatives, or people that that are other small business entrepreneurs, please refer them to SCORE to let us help them out. And then obviously we always say, if you're interested in becoming a volunteer and want to become a SCORE mentor, we look forward to having you do that. There's an opportunity to do that. You can send us an email or you can phone us at these numbers. We do answer the phones. We do respond to the emails. And we look forward, as it says, to working with you. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Steve. Actually, sorry, we'll address any questions if there are any specific questions that are related to this at this point. Well,
I do not see any questions in the chat. I just see where someone says, hopefully they can receive everyone's contact information. So we'll make sure that they get that, but I don't see any questions. So we'll move forward to Steve.
All right. Well, thank you, guys. Appreciate it. It's a pleasure to visit with you about what we do over at the Small Business Development Center through the University of Georgia. We have 17 offices around the state of Georgia. And so, Ron, if you want to move it to the next slide, I think that's in the map there. So we're all over the state of Georgia as well. We just added an office at Morehouse College, so I think we're at 18 now. This map needs to be updated, and these are the offices in Metro Atlanta. Again, Morehouse also needs to be included. We're a part of the University of Georgia system, And we provide an opportunity for small business owners that are either in the pre-venture, basic business, that are established businesses or professionally managed businesses, anywhere along that continuum as far as where you might be in your stage of business operation. And we provide a no cost. We don't call it free because we too are supported by the Small Business Administration and the taxpayers of the state of Georgia. So your time with us is supported by those two programs. And I'm a faculty member at the University of Georgia. I also teach managerial economics and corporate finance in the MBA program. And it's really just a great opportunity to do a deep dive into your business and your resources to determine ways that you're kind of to establish your path to success, hopefully. You know, entering small business ownership can be very challenging and sometimes very risky. So what we want to do is help minimize some of that risk associated with small business ownership. Our mission is to enhance the economic well-being of Georgians by providing a wide range of educational services. So that's what we do. We're in the education business. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go forward. So we're in the build up your business process. Maybe you've started your business or you're thinking about how to start your business, but now you want to get to that next level. Maybe you're thinking about hiring employees. You're thinking about entering a new market, or you're trying to maximize the income in your market. Some of these slides that I'm pulling from might go back just maybe where do we leave there? So study the market and competition. Thank you. These are some of the things we need to look at. Market segmentation analysis. We do a deep dive on that. Demographics, psychographics. We have 122 different databases through the University System of Georgia that cover the business criteria and business arena. And we also have about 10 that we draw on very heavily, including data, Axel, Mergent, Vertical IQ, FinTech, information. It goes on and on and on. All that information is available to you working through a business consultant at the University System of Georgia or through the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center. So just sign up with any one of those folks and you have a chance to access some of that key information. So demographics, psychographics, and behavior. Go ahead if you go to the next slide, please. There we go. Again, Ronan was talking about some of the issues that we are looking at. We look at your competition, ask yourself about the customer's alternative. Sometimes that doesn't mean direct competition with your particular business or service, but it could mean a competition for those dollars. Got some great stories on there. We tell, in fact, we're going through a Start Smart program right now where we do a deep dive for those business owners who are in the process at the early stage of their business operation. Go into that quite a bit. We do independent research and primary and secondary research. What that means is we use all the databases available to you, but plus the primary research is maybe we're going to competition and maybe we're looking at we're looking at feasibility of a product, or we're looking at other businesses and how they operate as well, going straight to customers and talk to them. So a lot of opportunities there, and then mystery shopping is a part of that. Next slide, please. Market feasibility is probably one of the most important things you'll ask yourself as a small business owner. And this is one of the issues you have to resolve first, more than finance, more than personnel, more than anything else. This is the first question, the most important question you have to answer about your business. Is my market big enough to support what I want to do? If it's not big enough, we got to figure out how to get the product or service to a different level, how to reach more people, make sure that your product or service is available to a lot more people to support your lifestyle, whatever that may be. So how consumers view your product, understanding what your unique selling position is or proposition is going to be so that you can compete in that very, very competitive market. And we take some numbers. This is actually a slide out of one of our Start Smart classes where we go through the numbers and chart out exactly what that should be, what your market potential might be, and what % of that market you might capture. We look at different marketing strategies, everything through social media to direct mail campaigns and traditional marketing. So there are a lot of things we can do there as well. Next slide, please. So the product positioning is absolutely one of the most critical factors we talk about here, making sure that you're in the best possible position you can be, and working out a business plan and a marketing plan. And if that doesn't work, then we figure out another way to get that product out there. Next slide, please. Other things that we include in our training and our one-on-one consultation time is building your team and management structure, understanding HR. That's one of the first steps a small business owner goes through to scale, is how to hire that new employee. How much money do I have to do it? What can I expect out of them? What are my real costs going to be? What kind of organizational structure do I need in place to make that happen? Some of the human resource basics that we walk through. What is a compensation level available through that? We have a lot of HR experts in our organization, again, available to you at no cost, that can consult with you on setting up salary ranges and compensation packages at a wide range of positions. Next slide, please. In addition to the market feasibility and the HR, we also spend a lot of time on financial feasibility. We look at the primary financial statements that you need to consider when you open a business. You also, when you think about your pro forma, whether or not you're going to a banker or other friends and family to finance it, whatever your source of funding is going to be, this financial projections will put you in a position to determine whether or not this makes sense for me. We look at both your profitable debt or return on debt, talk about that in a lot of detail, and spend a lot of time on break-even revenue, making sure you understand exactly where that point is. How long do you have to carry your business from personal savings or other borrowed funds to get to that magic break-even revenue point? There's a very clear formula for that. This is a pro forma. I know you can't see this, but it'll be included in the sign. This is just a snapshot of a blank pro forma that we use when we're preparing a borrower, a business owner, for a loan with a bank. And this is just one example of a pro forma. And usually these will be 10, 12 sheets long, including balance sheets, projections over multiple years, your amortization schedules and all that sort of thing. So very, very detailed as well. A lot of detail there. Next slide, please. When one of the primary things we do is we work with small business owners to put together a business plan. And this has multiple purposes. A business plan can be for the banker, but I look at it as it's your roadmap to success, hopefully. And we do this in the early stage of the business. Actually, we do it throughout the business life of the business, because business plans are always changing. The business you have today won't be the business you have tomorrow, but in early stage, you're most often building a business plan for the purpose of going to a lender to get funding. And we talk about all the components of a business plan, walk you through that. Right now, we have an agreement with Live Plan. If you go through Start Smart, you get access to Live Plan. It's a great little template that you can work with to create a nice summary for your business. And talk about the importance there. Financial information is obviously critical. And then the executive summary, making sure you have that elevator pitch ready to go. Next slide, please. I'm going to clip through these pretty quickly. So I know we've got a limited amount of time, but there's some basic questions that every small business owner asks about how to get money. And this applies across the board. I have this conversation with every small business owner. And so much of the decision to secure funding is based on these 5 C's of credit. And the good thing about coming to somebody like us in Merlin is the fact that, we're not a bank, so we're not going to say, fill out an application. If you don't make it, come back and see us later. What we're going to do is help explain the process, take some of the confusion out of the process, and hopefully get you in a better position so you will be able to secure a fund. Nobody can guarantee funding. Nobody can guarantee the outcome you want, but we get you in the best possible position with the best possible lender to hopefully look at your type of business. It's very important to understand that. And that happens across the board. Without going into a lot of detail, again, character, capital, cash flow, collateral, and conditions. Character has to do with your credit history, capacity, and cash flow. Do you have the ability to handle this business from a standpoint of, do you have savings also that you can put into it? Do you have capital and equity to back that up? Does the business have collateral, or are you using it as a sort of a signature loan? And the conditions of the business that you're going into. If you're trying to secure a loan for a restaurant right now, very challenging. So all those things are very important. We also, and this is where we work hand in glove with the folks at SBA and Jeff's office. So many small businesses require us or would only be funded through SBA, and that's why this program works so well for small business owners. Very important part of the process. And Jeff's going to talk a lot about that. Grants, rare for profit business. In fact, we just don't say that happens for the most part. Sometimes if you're a medical service or something like that, but we really don't work with grants, and SBA doesn't have grants. Other things, why businesses are not funded. These are things that the bank will reject you for, other possible lenders. Poor market analysis. You don't know who you're selling to. You don't know how you're going to sell them to. You don't have any experience in that business. We call it the Great Restaurant Syndrome. Man, that looks easy to do, but have you ever done that before? If you haven't, it's very challenging. Inability to make decisions on a timely basis, making sure you're making the right decision, which means basically, am I educated on this business? Do I know how to run a business? Poor sales effort, poor marketing once you are established in business. Overly optimistic projections, we call that the hockey stick effect. I'm in business for a few years and it goes way up. Lack of financial planning or understanding what a budget is, or sloppy record keeping, those kind of go hand in hand. And no business or marketing plan. We don't have a model. We don't know what people are supposed to do every day they show up, or we're not sufficiently funded to work through the period of negative cash flows. So those are very important. And of course, no time management skills. Have to have all those as a small business owner. Next slide. I went through that pretty quick, and I think we'll have time for some questions and some other comments later. Jeff?
There were a couple of questions I saw real quick.
Okay,
One,
sure.
Ms. Cook asked, is support for the market feasibility study free of charge?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
All right.
That's part of the services you're able to access.
And then we had another question here. It says, I want to be able to finish 8 college classes to receive an associate's degree in business management. My credits are Atlanta Tech, but I do need to be enrolled. I don't know that that's a question you guys can answer. As a small business, do I have to be registered with the SBA as an 8A?
No and no and no, but I will let Jeff handle those 8A questions.
Okay, all right. All right, well, we'll go to the next. The next question was someone asked, will the email, we provide emails as well as will we provide the Zoom? So that's a yes for both of those questions. All right, so we'll go to you, Jeff. And here we are.
Okay. All right, so good to be with you all. And what you don't realize is what a talented bunch you have here. And yeah, you need to reach out to these folks when they when their information is shared, their contact information is shared with you. There's a wealth of information if you're starting your business, want to start your business, want to take your hobby to the next level, whatever that is. And that's where Roman would come in, although Steve does that same kind of work at SBDCs. But SBDC, with that big university behind them, they can get you all sorts of information to help you with your market study, your feasibility study, where your customers are. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as you try to expand your business. But either stage you're in, any stage you're in, I think both gentlemen talked about borrowing money, the need for capital. So that's what I want to talk to you just a little bit about. But first, here's a little bit about who the SBA is, the Small Business Administration. We were established back in the early 50s. We do have a cabinet level position with the president. So there's a lot of policy that you know, we can help form and that impacts you as a small business owner. So, and we are here for the simple reason to help create and grow small businesses. So next slide. Our major areas of assistance are listed there. Counseling and training, we do some of that, but we rely on Roman and Steve's organizations to help do that as well. So again, smart people, you need to reach out to them if you need any kind of assistance. But today, and contracting was mentioned, I want to mention that at the very last. But today I want to focus mostly on borrowing that money, how SBA can help you get across the finish line. So that's why I have capital access highlighted there. Next slide. So a couple of times it's come up when Roman was talking and Steve, basically, I think Roman said the FF&A bank, the Friends and Family, or F&F bank, the Friends and Family bank. But So really, there's a couple of ways you can get money to grow your business, to take it to the next level. And that is bootstrap it. You know, that's an overused term, but to bootstrap that, that's coming from your pocket, from your personal savings, from, you know, your retirement funds. There's a lot of retirees, you know, entering back into the marketplace. You can get an equity investor. We won't talk much about that today, but the one word of caution there, if you're talking to an investor, they're going to want a piece of the pie. They're going to want ownership. They may want enough to control your business. And so you just need to be on the lookout for that. And then there may also be an exit strategy somewhere in there. They may not tell you about it, but they may hang with you a few years and then want out. And then you find your business kind of at a risk there. And then there's the friends and family bank, money that you borrow from your friends or your family, the credit card, your home equity, whatever. There's also crowdfunding. There's other mechanisms to get the loan for just the business. So I am a previous banker 30 years before I got to the Small Business Administration. So I'll tell you, most every time, 99.9% of the time, you're going to be asked to personally guarantee the debt. That's just the way it is. And you know, you need to reconcile that in your mind to get that. The only time I did not see that happen in 30 years was when we had, you know, cash backing up the loan. So that, but anyway, so borrowing through the business, that's what we're going to talk about a little bit here. I want to tell you some of the SBA programs for you. Next slide. So again, being the old banker in the room, if you will, it's a sales pitch. I think I heard Steve use the word sales pitch in his market feasibility talk, and you're looking and you're trying to find customers, and you know, borrowing the money is a sales pitch too. And I've got that highlighted in the blue box is really the thing the lender's gonna know is what you tell them in your story, and tell them a story. Make the pitch. That's what it is. The first thing to know is you want to get to the right person inside the bank. So you don't want to talk about your business loan to the same person you talk about your car loan for your family or whatever. So that's just the thing. The banks will also have, you know, minimum credit underwriting standards. You might want to have that conversation with them as well. But hey, do you make loans in my industry? Or do you have an appetite for hotel lending? You know, tell me what you guys are looking for when you're talking to the banker. That's what you want to say. Here's what I do. Any appetite for that? And but just be ready to make your sales pitch to the lender. And that's what I want to help you prepare for. Next slide. We've already talked about the 5 C's of character, 5 C's of credit, sorry. So we'll pass that slide. Go to the next. So to get prepared for the banker, you're going to want to have some documentation. You want to go in prepared. You want to go after you've talked to Roman at SCORE or Steve at SBDC. You want to have those projections and those assumptions, and you're going to want to have those ready to talk about, because it's going to be a Q&A session with the banker. You're going to want to say, you know, my growth, you know, I'm going to grow 22% or whatever. Well, the banker may come back and say, well, you know, industry standards based on what we know about folks in this area, you know, they may only do 8% a year. So tell me how you're going to more than double that. So you need to be prepared for those conversations. More importantly, you need to know about the assumptions and the projections, and they need to be able to be, let's say, defended, if you will. You're going to need your tax returns. You're going to have at least 2 years of this information, tax returns, you know, income statements and balance sheets. So again, Steve and Roman can help you gather up that information, go through that with you, be able to have an educated conversation with the banker. Next slide. So here's a major component about SBA lending, and we get calls all the time. There are no grants and no direct loans through SBA. Now, there is a time when we make a direct loan. That's through our disaster side of the house, which most everybody in the country knows We did that through COVID idle. We're coming through all those programs now, and all those are winding down. So the main thing is if there's a disaster, there's a whole side of the house that takes care of direct lending, but SBA loans are done through our banking partners, okay? And there are no grants here. Grants are local. You might check with your local economic development folks, things like that. So grants are not through SBA, and they're few and far between. But the way we work is the other red box. We basically guarantee the loan to the banker, to the lender, and that could be anywhere from 50% up to 90%. So I'm going to show you some of that. But so why do we do this? Well, it helps the borrower be enticed to make loans to small businesses. And then it lowers your investment requirements if the bank would loan you more money, if you will, by getting SBA involved. Okay, next slide. There we go. It's easier really to tell you who SBA, what SBA projects will not fit into our underwriting box, if you will, or what deals will not work at SBA for funding, and they're listed there. And we can talk about those if you have questions offline. But Roman mentioned the nonprofits. We are for profit. So I mean, our lenders, our borrowers, excuse me, have to be for profit. So maybe Roman could have some other avenues for you if you're a nonprofit. But basically, you know, we don't loan money to lenders. You know, you must occupy the real estate at least 51%. There's no speculative deals, but those are listed there. We don't do partial acquisitions. If you're not buying out your whole partner, or you're not going to be, you know, in control, then that won't work in the SBA world. Next slide. So when you discuss SBA lending and you go in and talk, you get to the commercial banker, and the commercial banker says, well, I think our best avenue for you forward is through SBA. So when you get to the SBA department in your bank or your lender, you're going to hear some jargon. You're going to hear 7A and 504. Well, I have 7A. That's our biggest, most used product in the lending world, if you will. And there's some of the bullet points behind the 7A program. Now you may hear down at the bottom, you may hear SBA Express or Cap Lines or Community Advantage, but when you hear 7A, that's literally a paragraph out of the statute that refers to the lending piece that SBA gives. But you can see it there. It's up to an 85% loan guarantee to the lender, which hopefully will help you get across the finish line. There is a maximum of $5 million. So that's another key thing. Let's go to the next slide. So 7A. Now the other major program is 504. So when you hear those two terms, you'll know what the lender's talking about. So the 504 program is basically for commercial real estate, fixed assets. I helped a banker get a deal completed for a large carpet manufacturing, a big piece of equipment for it had over 100 years life expectancy for the piece of equipment. So we were able to get that through 504. But there are other components that are attached to the 504, which is job creation and things like that. So there will be some other little strings attached, but those are easy to do. It's either maintain or create a job, and most of the time that's what you want to do anyway. You want to grow your business and hire more people. So 7A and 504. Let's see what the next slide says. There we go. So there's a $5 million cap as well on the 504 program, and the terms are up to 25 years. The main thing I want you to know is 40% of this loan is backed by a treasury issue vehicle that we help facilitate, and that part will be at a fixed rate. So wherever the rate cycle is, or whatever, obviously it's low right now, so it would be a good time to be talking to your lender about a 504. But a major component is that 40% of this deal is at a fixed rate, which gives you a blended rate of lower than expected if you were just going 7A. That's the biggest selling point.
Jeff, I want to put a punctuation point on that too. For
Okay,
the
good.
504, for the 504 program. That is a great program if you're interested in real estate as a small business owner. It's one of the easiest ways to minimize risk. And that's what a lot of this does, help you minimize the risk of the investment. Because so much of that is you end up with a second lien program on the bank, and just a very good for the CDC. Jeff will explain all that. He'll clean it up. But
No, that's exactly right. The banker's happy because they're in a first lien position on 50% of the money out the door. So they're in a great loan to value percentage, loan to value ratio on the project. So they're happy. 40% does come through the Treasury I mentioned, and that is through something called a CDC. Now, that's not the health people, that's called a certified development company. And there are a few of those scattered around Atlanta. So again, we can talk more about that, but there's a third party lender there that's involved in the equation, but your banker will know how to get you to the right spot there. Next slide. So there's also a group of lending partners that you can get an SBA loan, believe it or not, for up to $50,000. And so the average through this program is actually more like $13,000 or $15,000. So that's pretty small. So that's what we want to do. We want to be able to meet people wherever their pain point is, and under 50,000 is a good product for what we call it a micro loan. So you want to check out our website for that and who those providers are. But even down to under 50,000, we can be involved and help you. Next slide. I want to mention this in case anybody needs a so SBA lending is just like any other lending, and I think we've talked about even Roman back to where he was talking about this is relationship driven. It's got to be you got to be prepared to meet your bank or your lender. And our first priority, any of us on the call, is to help you get through wherever your relationship is, wherever your banker is. But you may say, Jeff, I don't know anybody in the commercial space. I'm new at this or whatever. Once you have that conversation with your lender, and they may say, well, you know what, we don't do bed and breakfast. So I've got a live example of that. I had a client that needed a bed and breakfast. Those are kind of hard to do for whatever reason in the industry. And so I sent the lady to Lender Match. Lender Match is basically what it says. You build a profile as the borrower on one side. Meanwhile, the lender has built a profile on their side, and the algorithm matches you up. It could be street level, industry level, credit wise. It could be Atlanta. It could be Phoenix, Arizona. It could be anywhere. The number of hits you get on the profile, then the next thing you get in about 3 days is you get an email introduction to each other, and then the rest is history. My bed and breakfast lady found a lender that knew all about that industry. They flew up from Florida and helped her with her project. So it actually works, and we're looking to enhance that even further. So just know that's out there for you if you don't have a relationship with your lender. Next slide. So I have to mention this because part of what I do in capital, you may not think, well, bonding may not be as part of capital, but there's a new infrastructure bill that's passed, and now those monies are being deployed. There's a lot of energy getting behind that and helping, repair roads and whatever in our district, in the Congressman's district, and really nationwide. So surety bonding is a big deal, and we are involved with that program. Just wanted you to know that. Bid, performance, payment bonds, and we can facilitate that. And it's a pretty good product for you. So you can search that on the website or call me if you need more information. Next slide. Well, that gets to the next. You can go back one, and we can do the questions if you want to for just the lending piece while I've got Steve and Roman on the line here. If there are any questions on loans.
Well, we did have a question about asking if you had to be registered with the SBA to receive an 8A loan. That was a
So
question.
that's contracting, and so 8A is a designation for your business. It has nothing to do with the loan side. It has to do with contracting and your ability to get contracts for the federal government dollars, or at the federal level, I guess. But contracting we'll mention here in just a minute. But it has there's no connectivity between 8A and the loan.
And Steve, the question I was reading earlier about the students saying they wanted credits, they were asking, would you suggest that they enroll in the University of Georgia for the program? I know they're probably trying to understand the affiliation of SBDC and UGA. You could kind of explain that briefly.
Well, sure. We're part of the Public Service and Outreach Division or unit of the University of Georgia. So the classes that we offer through SBDC are non-college credit hours. They are certificate hours. You'll see that all throughout the industry. But there are lots of business programs available if you want to get college credit hours, if that addresses the question.
Okay. And then the last question I have, are there any business loans specifically for people with lower credit scores that you all would suggest?
I'll answer that one on behalf of everyone. So generally speaking, banks today want a credit score of about 680. Some will go a little lower than that. The poor credit is a real detriment. Now, the online lenders will go as low as 580. What's the downside to that is that the terms are higher interest rates than you would get from traditional banks. And the second is it's a much quicker repayment period. That again, using a house as a comparison, where you might be able to get a mortgage for 15 to 30 years. Same with bank loans for businesses. But the online lenders, they may want repayment as fast as 2 to 3 years. So that means bigger payments, rather than a small payment each month, they're much larger payments to recover that. But the thing you need to be doing is constantly working on improving your credit score. A second, let's say, tie into that, start building your business credit when you don't need it. In other words, talk to your bank, open up a business credit card, deposit some money, start doing some checking and services at the bank. You start building that relationship so that you become friendlier, more known at the bank, and so on. So those are things that you need to do. Those are my comments about low credit score, and they'll look at it. Okay, bankruptcies do go out of play eventually, but again, it's something that's in your history. Banks will be looking at it. Any lenders will be looking at your credit performance. Show that you're repaying loans. Show that you're an ongoing business. I mean, that's the key to get favorable terms.
Great, thank you. No more questions in the chat. Jeff, you want to continue?
Jeff, before you go on, I'd like
Yes, sir.
to add a comment. You talked about 504 loans. Just so everyone here understands that, one of the attractions, as was mentioned, is that this can be used for real estate. But I want to differentiate, and I'm sure and Jeff would do the same. We're not talking about you buying and reselling real estate. This is not a investment scheme. If you go get a 504 loan, you as the owner of that real estate need to be responsible for at least 51% of the occupancy of that real estate. So in other words, you use it, and yes, you can lease out, rent out some of the excess, but this is not a get rich scheme where you're going to be flipping houses or flipping real estate. That's not what the 504 loan is designed for. It is designed for ongoing businesses.
Thanks for cleaning that up. You're exactly right. And it is for your business, for you to occupy the majority of the floor space. And I've seen it come down to getting out the tape measure and measuring out that 51%, but we've helped get those things done. But yeah, that's exactly right. No speculative deal or flipping houses. You're right. Thanks, Roman. Okay. So we've started, go back one slide and I can make sure I cover all this, but we've started, we've built the systems with Steve's help. We've talked about HR and, talked about financials and being prepared with a business plan and those kind of things. Well, so now you're up and running and you want to get to the next phase. You want to scale up even further. You want to grow your business even further. And there's a couple of ways. Well, I've got 4 listed there that you can do that. And I'll let Steve and Roman chime in on this one as well. But they're actually, there are new markets out there. You may be in Decatur now, and you may want to go, to the northwest corner of Rome, Georgia, or something like that. So you're going to want to use Roman and Steve to help you find that market feasibility. And Steve's going to tell you a little bit how to do that. You may want to buy a business there. So there's perfect ways to enter new markets and new industries by simply buying a business. Then the contracting piece I'll mention again. And then one other thing that we're heavily involved with here at the Small Business Administration is international sales. And I want to try to paint you a picture there of how easy that would be. So we'll go to the next slide and I'll turn the mic over to Steve.
Thank you, Jeff, again. And this is just an example of some of the information you can extract from a database. If you're looking to open a business or start a business in a particular area, I just chose our old office address here as an example of who lives in that area. It's a 1 mile radius of that office, tells you the number of people that live there, their average household income. This is pretty close to Emory, so a lot of doctors and medical professionals live in the area, so the income is pretty high. So what you want to do is match your customer. What does your customer look like? And do they fit into this category? And you want to find the best physical location. If if you have a brick and mortar or even trying to market into a particular area, you want to try to find the best physical location. We can draw any map, any location. And like I say, this is just one example of about 122 different databases that we have. Mergent IQ, our vertical IQ, Mergent, FinTech, of course, and then Data Axle, which this one happens to come from, IBIS World, Esri. There's just a bunch of them out there. And we help find the one that works best in your particular situation. And final point, when you go in and present your business plan to a banker and they look at this and they see the research, that's pretty good tangible work. I mean, that's a, yeah, you're doing your research, you're identifying your market, you know who your customers are. And it shows that you're very serious about trying to make this happen. And then this is a question really for all of us: ownership through acquisition, or a comment for all of us. It's so much easier right now, particularly in the credit market, to buy a business than start a business. That's just the reality of it. It's just fewer and fewer lenders who look at startups. So if you're interested in a particular market segment, a particular type of business, and you can find one for sale that's somewhat profitable, that's a good thing. It's just easier to secure the funding because you have a track record, you have tax returns, you already have a customer base, you have a lot of things up and running. You may enhance the service a lot and make it more profitable. Hopefully that's what you'll do. There's a known track record of earnings. We need to mention franchises in here. Banks love franchises because it's an established business model. They know what they're dealing with. SBA's approved the business model. Lots of advantages there. You don't have to, start from square one. You have employees in place. You have a recognized value for the business. So if you do in a few years want to buy it, ramp it up, sell it, that's a good thing too. And you have cash flow from day one of ownership. I think I skipped over one there I wanted to make sure about was the owner financing may be an option too if you're buying it. There it is. Okay, right in the middle. So those are some of the reasons people look at ownership through acquisition. Roman,
let's go back to that just a minute. Roman, tell us about the services that, franchising and business valuations and things like that. I think you wanted to comment on that.
Sure, be glad to. So SCORE does help out with this. We do have relationships with a company called FranNet in the area. They offer free services to help you evaluate whether or not you should be in the franchising business. We, among our volunteer ranks, we actually have 4 franchisee, owners who've got single or multiple locations, and they come from the top end of the business, the Taco Bells and Wendy's and so on, down to educational related franchises, so that we've got familiarity with that. You need to be looking at location. You need to be looking at what the traffic patterns are. Particularly if you're looking at a brand new one. If you're buying an existing franchise location, then from a franchisee who's now exiting, you do want to look at the valuation, what he's got in there for profit and loss results, so you know what kind of value to put on it. These are things that we do have familiarity with. What may not be known, there are over 6,000 franchisors in this country. There's a franchise for everything. There's a real opportunity. Think of every time you got a new strip mall or a shopping center opens up, one of those businesses in that area is likely to be a franchise. So don't discount that as a possibility for yourself as to how to get started in with small business ownership.
Great. I will remind the audience that if there is an SBA loan involved, then you must purchase the entire business. So we can talk about that. But yeah, so another way to grow or enter a new market, or if you want to get to the next level, if you're a mature business and you want to think about doing things differently, federal contracting is a particular good way to do that. The federal government is the world's largest buyer of goods and services, and chances are they would buy something, or could buy, or do buy something that you're selling. So there's a whole team of folks here in the Georgia District Office that offers prep work and how to get ready for that space as well. I'm not well versed in that, but there are classes and workshops at both Roman's shop and Steve's place that they talk about that. There's also help there. And just so you know, the SBA, the Small Business Administration, sets the guidelines for all these other agencies to purchase from small businesses. So we kind of tell them, you got to buy 24% of your total, revenue or total purchase power for the whole year from a small business. So there's ways to work through that. We have a team of folks to help you through that. But again, it's an excellent way to grow your business. And that's also, it doesn't have to be federal. There, state and local governments buy your services as well. So there's a way, there's a way to get certain certifications that will help you. The 8A we've already mentioned. There are other woman-owned small business certifications, things of that nature. Veteran-owned will help you get to the front of the line. But I think Roman mentioned this early on in his presentation, or someone, but you've got to have a track record. You've got to have a resume, if you will. You got to be selling and providing those services, and they're gonna check you out. But it's a huge opportunity, and I've got the website there for us listed to learn more about that. Next slide.
Steve, and let me comment. So we happen to coincidentally have a workshop on exactly that subject on May the 4th. It's free. And we're using another partner that all of us, do take advantage of, the GT Path, the Georgia Tech Purchasing Assistance. It's another great organization. These are resources that are available to you. Be sure to take advantage.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Roman, there's some matchmaking services they offer.
Yes, they do. They're correct.
So I may sell helicopter parts, and I don't even know where to go to who buys those, but they'll help you figure out how to get the matchmaking and the conversation started. But other services are there, but that's powerful, I think. So good point. So now let's turn our attention just for a few seconds to if I'm a mature company, I want to grow, I want to reach out further. You need to have at least somewhere in your business plan that's been mentioned, to maybe look at exporting your goods and services. And now with the internet, that's even more easier to do. And again, as the slide suggests, 2/3 of the world's purchasing power is outside of the United States. So chances are somebody out there across the pond, as they say, might be interested in what you're selling. Next slide. So I want to walk you through some of that. And again, there's a lot of text on these slides, so you will have this for your reading pleasure later. But basically, what is an export? It's a foreign purchase or a foreign buyer of your goods and services. So that could be engineering, that could be software, that could be your actual selling that product or that piece that goes into the helicopter that we talked about. So the only stipulations is you have to operate here in the States and you have to be the 51% owner of that. So domestic operations for exporting is something that we're very interested in, and we've got some pretty good products. Next slide. Something I wanted to make you aware of. It's pretty easy to do. It's if you make, let's see, if you make a light bulb that goes into the car and you sell that to the Kia plant here in Georgia, and you know that Kia is sold all over the world, then you have what's called an indirect relationship with your other partner. And just by having that relationship would qualify you for an SBA loan with a much higher guarantee for the lender. So that's just something to know. Supply chain is in the news quite a bit lately, and that's a good way to get involved in international in our international products. If you sell peaches, if you will, that goes into the pies at Mrs. Edward Pies, and those pies are obviously sold all over the world, then you would qualify. So indirect exporting is something that people overlook, and that's why I bring it up here. ITL is an international trade loan. That's basically one of our products. You can even say, look, I'm adversely affected by the import competition. Of course, you have to see Steve and Roman to help get get all your data points and your market information to help back that up. But you can easily qualify for this exporting program through SBA by just simply saying, you know what, import competition is killing me, and I need to be able to reverse that, and you can do that. Next slide. So there are countries, something you need to know about. There are countries that we cannot do business with, and they're listed there, but that might change, occasionally. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And there are other OFAC sanctioned, the flip side of that is basically most favored nations categories like Canada, Mexico, those kind of things. So there's a good list and a bad list. I just want you to be aware of that, so to speak. So we will not assist in those. And then some programs, military product, will not be available for us to help either. But next slide. So true story, guy comes into my office and he says, look, I'm looking to expand internationally. Here's what I sell. And it was a concrete additive product. So I get help from Steve over at SBDC. He does his research. He says, well, a huge population of what you sell, people interested in what you sell is in Canada. And he looks at me and he says, I told you I wanted to do international sales. Well, Canada is our #1 international trade partner, just so you know. But we joke about that. But he ended up making a lot of money with his product. He was thinking warm weather situations, Saudi Arabia, those kind of things. And when we showed him the numbers from the market research for Canada, he was qualified for an indirect, not an indirect, but an export loan, because, as you know, Canada is a foreign country. But you got any comments on that one, Steve?
Well, good point, Jeff. And I tell you what, international trade, like you say, is a big part of the equation. If you can, we're working with a hair products service or hair products manufacturer right now that's looking at exporting to Europe. And it's not as hard or intimidating as you might think. We have a whole group of people that do nothing but that, help folks understand the international market. So sort of like Roman's group, we have a lot of resources out there. Sometimes we work with pharmacists, veterinarians, doctors, lawyers, offices, whatever. They know their particular trade, but they don't necessarily know business. And that's where we come in: international trade, finance, marketing, those sort of things. So good point, Jeff.
Good. So let me just leave you with this one other thought. So There's a couple of acronyms you'll hear when you're talking about international trade with SBA, the ITL, the International Trade Loan. That's what I talked about earlier. That's more of a fixed rate, not a fixed rate, a fixed term product where, you're buying a piece of equipment or real estate, even change of ownership, permanent working capital, those kind of things. The other thing I wanted to point out is we also guarantee an export working capital line of credit product where, again, you work off of purchase orders or contracts, line of credit, those kind of things. So the banker's going to know these products. And when you hear some of these buzzwords, I want you to know about them, but you need to think internationally. You need to think where your customers live, and you can get a lot of this information from SCORE and from SBDC. And then again, SBA is all along the continuum to help you. I think that's our last slide, Ron. So let's get that tip. Good deal.
Yes, it was. A lot of the comments people were saying is great information. Thank you guys for sharing that information. And they want to share it with some people that may not have been able to participate in the call. One of the questions that I saw was they asked how could they access, or if it's possible to access that database that you guys showed when you were talking about FinTech and vertical IQ?
Sure. So the way you do that is you do that through an SBDC consultant. And you can use my contact information to get started. If you're in our area, then we'll be working through the DeKalb or Atlanta office or one of our offices locally, wherever you are. But just contact me and we'll make sure we get the process started for you.
Okay. I don't see any additional questions.
Let me add a question out to throw out a possibility for everyone here.
Mhm.
So, we just talked about import, export. In the news is supply chain problems. When we had the pandemic, all the advice was pivot your business, go do something different than what you've been doing with your resources. Well, think of supply chain as another opportunity to pivot. Those customers, potential customers that you had that were going to be buying cheap from China rather than, buying locally, they're in a strait, they're in a bind. They need supply. If it's something you can do, don't just take care of the initial need, but try to sign them up to a longer term contract. They need you now. You want them for the long term. It's an opportunity to build a relationship, do substitute, marketing right now. Take advantage of the situation. This is going to be a long-term issue. China's causing still more problems, not purposely as such, but they're shutting down a lot of their major export cities because of how they're dealing with COVID. So places like Shanghai and Guangzhou are shut down. They're not exporting right now. So, see what you can do about that. It's an opportunity for you to go to, former customers, potential new customers. Use that entrepreneurial spirit that you have to come up with new ideas.
Something I remember you guys said you were going to mention was the franchise directory and franchise evaluations. Was there want to share that information?
Yep. Thank you. Roman talked about how they can help with the franchise. They actually have expert folks on staff there volunteering that actually have been there and done that, if you will. But what you need to know, if SBA is involved with the lending on that, and the bankers do love franchise lending and you get the playbook, right? You get the instruction manual on how to run the business. There is an SBA directory of those companies that are vetted already and are on our approved list. So that's just one other little tripwire along the way, that if you decide, you want to get into that industry or that particular industry through franchising, then check our website out. It's just Google SBA franchise directory, and you will see there's everything listed there, from Starbucks to everything's listed there that you can imagine, and it'll give you the code, if you will. The banker will need that code, but we've already vetted these people, and they've gotten a good track record, or they wouldn't be on our directory. Good point.
Someone commented on what you said. They said, great forward thinking and taking a leap of faith. Thank you, Mr. Roman. So make sure that you got that information. And there was one last thing I remember you guys mentioned, that you were gonna mention that they can get free access to something. I can't remember what the database was with their library card. And you guys said you would share that.
Sure, that's Data Axle, DATA hyphen AXLE. Using your library card, you don't have to pay for that service. But what was also mentioned is that Steve at SBDC has access to still more databases. So it's an opportunity, to do it yourself or work with Steve to get at the data. It's a great competitive analysis, great customer analysis set of tools. So you know where the opportunities are. You can begin to quantify them. And that's what you're going to need, is that kind of information to, if you're going for any kind of a loan, whether that's for profits or nonprofits, they all want to know that you're going to use the money successfully, that you're going to grow your business, you're going to pay them back, but ultimately, provide work, employment, taxes, if you will, to to the local communities, and that's what's important. That's what we're all about here.
Great. Congressman, do you have anything you wanted to add, sir?
Okay, thank you, Zoran. I want to thank Mr. Roman Potowski of SCORE, Mr. Steve Newton with the SBDC, and also Mr. Jeff Patterson with the SBA for providing such valuable information to our audience today. You all have done a spectacular job, and I can tell that you're used to working together. And so it's like a network that people can tap into when they give one or either of you, any of you, a call. So it's like a comprehensive type of situation, and I think it's really been good. So thank you all for participating today. And this is our first day of 3 days of small business attention that we're giving to that community. So Ron, would you tell our listeners about the next 2 days of events?
Yes, we're going to do a 3-part grants workshop. The first one is tomorrow at 10 a.m. So you guys can actually go to the Congressman's website, hankjohnson.house.gov, as well as look at the social media for Rep Hank Johnson on his Facebook, IG, and Twitter, and we'll have that information about these 3 grant programs. So as these gentlemen mentioned, it's not really grant money that's offered through the programs that we shared today, but we did want to focus on being able to assist the small businesses with resources. But these grants workshops will be starting tomorrow, and then there'll be another one on Wednesday and Thursday. So like I said, go to hankjohnson.house.gov and you'll see that information.
Thanks, Ron. And some people would look at these times that we're in the midst of a pandemic with a supply chain interrupted, and goods and services being sometimes in short supply, and with inflation taking hold. Some people would wonder, why would anyone want to start a business during such times? But these are the types of times, and I'm sure that Mr. Potowski and Mr. Newton and Mr. Patterson would agree. These are the times that there are opportunities that lie within the chaos and confusion. And for those sharp-eyed individuals who can spot a need, it is an opportunity that is there. And with the passage by Democrats of the American Rescue Plan, not a single Republican voted for the American Rescue Plan, $1.9 trillion. Some of that money is dedicated to small business development. And out of that money has come the development of a record number of small businesses. So your business could be one of them. And I see that there have been a lot of women among the 39, I think I saw at one point on the call. Most of them were women who have been receiving this information. And you should be pleased to know that one of the things that the American Rescue Plan funds for the SBA and various programs under the SBA are diversity and equity considerations. And so there is money for people who have been systemically shut out for whatever reason of the marketplace, for the inability to get funding for your business. You can, there are programs within the SBA that can help you at this point. And so out of the chaos and confusion of the times is opportunity. And so I want to commend you for being on this call. And I look forward to at least one person on this call. If we've only reached one person who starts a business that employs people, you know, then we've done a good job. But I hope that we've actually helped more than one person get a start, get a good running start as an entrepreneur starting a new business. So with that, thank you all, and have a great day. And thanks again, Mr. Potowski, Mr. Newton, and Mr. Patterson for blessing us today with your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.